Hello, welcome to Minor Murderers, Children Who Kill. This is episode 3. Today we'll be covering the case of Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf, more commonly known as the Skylar Neese case. Before we jump into that though, Donald is going to read part of an email we received regarding the Jamarian Lawhorn case.
Ruth in Nashville said, "Connor's family are saints. I could never give the mother of my son's killer money. And for his grandmother to still be giving her money and rides to visit him? Good for them, but I just couldn't do that. I'm appalled that the caseworker wasn't fired. 5 days without pay? That's a vacation. I'm also blown away that Jamarian's parents only spent 150 days in jail and got the other kids back. They should have been charged with accessory to murder."
I can't disagree with any of that. How Connor's family handled it was so encouraging. But the way the state dealt with both CPS and the abusive parents was maddening. You can leave feedback to this case or any others that we've covered by going to minormurderers.com, where you'll find a forum, our email address, and links to our social media accounts, or leave a voicemail at 615-348-5562. Skylar Annette Neese and Sheila Eddy met when they were just 8 years old. Skylar lived in Star City, West Virginia, a small town just west of Morgantown. Sheila lived in Morgantown, home of West Virginia University. They attended different elementary schools, but were inseparable the rest of the time. Each girl was like a second daughter to the other's parents. Sheila was at the Neese home often. Her parents had divorced before the girls met, and Sheila lived with her mother. The girls grew up together. All of their memories included each other. They were more like sisters than best friends. In high school, they were fortunate enough to attend the same school. During freshman year, they met Rachel and allowed her to be another close friend. Sheila is the oldest. She was born on September 28, 1995. She is charismatic, outgoing, and strong-willed. Some of her classmates have said that she is arrogant and controlling. Others say she is a natural leader. She is an only child. Skylar was born on February 10, 1996. She was a very intelligent girl. She had straight A's and wanted to be a criminal lawyer when she grew up. She stood her ground on her beliefs and wasn't easily pressured into something she didn't want to do. She was bubbly and outgoing with a sweet and loving personality. She didn't have any brothers or sisters. Her parents are still together. Rachel Shoaf is the youngest of the three, born on June 10, 1996. She wanted to be an actress when she grew up and was very involved with the drama program at the school the three attended together. She is nice and caring, although she tends to be a follower rather than a leader. Her parents, although divorced, were raising Rachel in a strict Catholic family. She has one older half-brother. Rachel was accepted into the trio freshman year of high school. The first year and a half, things were good, but a gradual tension began to build, and before long, Skylar began feeling left out. There were things that Sheila and Rachel had in common that Skylar couldn't relate to, the biggest of which being sexual activity. Skylar was a virgin, and Rachel and Sheila had both been sexually active. Sheila used to tell Skylar about her sexcapades in detail. Skylar wrote in her diary that she didn't need to have sex because hearing about it from Sheila was enough to quench her curiosity about it and encourage her to maintain her virginity. Then one night in August of 2011, the three had a sleepover at Rachel's house in which they had swiped a bottle of liquor from Rachel's mom and gotten drunk. While they were all drunk, Sheila and Rachel began making out. Skylar had no choice but to sit there and watch, or get caught trying to leave. As time went on, Skylar felt more and more left out. She had gotten a part-time job at Wendy's and thought that maybe it was just because when she was working, Sheila and Rachel were hanging out without her. But then there were times when Skylar was at home that Rachel and Sheila left her out as well. In the spring of 2012, Sheila and Rachel began talking about killing Skylar. At first it was a joke, but soon they began discussing how to go about it. One night they played a game with Skylar on video in which Sheila would name 2 methods of death and Skylar and Rachel would answer how they would prefer to die. Sheila said, "Would you guys rather suffocate or get shot?" One of the girls off camera says shot. The other says it depends on where. Sheila then said in the head. Rachel and Skylar both said shot. Sheila then said eaten by ants or suffocated, to which both answer suffocated. Then she says drowning or suffocated, to which both say suffocated. Of course, Skylar had no idea that during this little game they were plotting her murder. There were many cryptic tweets sent by all 3 of the girls. On May 31st, 2012, Skylar tweeted, "You're a two-faced bitch and obviously fucking stupid if you thought I wouldn't find out." It is believed that what Skylar was referring to in that tweet was a possible ongoing lesbian relationship between Sheila and Rachel. As school was ending for the year, Skylar retweeted, "Won't miss anyone from school over the summer because if we're really friends, we'll hang out. If we aren't, we won't." Later that same day, she tweeted, "Just know I know." The next day, "Hope you don't expect me to give a fuck anymore. #bye." In June, Skylar and Sheila went on a vacation together to the beach. No one knows what happened on that trip, but when they returned, Rachel noticed a lot more animosity between Skylar and Sheila. A month later, on July 4th, 2012, at 9:01 p.m., a tweet from Skylar read, "Sick of being at fucking home. Thanks, friends. Love hanging out with you all, too." Friends was in quotation marks. On July 4th, 2012, at 11:43 p.m., a tweet from Skylar said, "Stress will be the death of me." On July 5th, 2012, at 10:48 p.m., Skylar tweeted, "You doing shit like that is why I can never completely trust you." That was Skylar's last tweet. Prior to sending that tweet, Skylar said goodnight to her parents and went to bed. About an hour after sending that tweet, Skylar snuck out of her bedroom window. The next day, when her father David went to wake her up, she wasn't there. He found that the screen on her window was missing, and there was a small bench placed just outside her window. He called her cell phone and left a voicemail telling her she was in big trouble and she had better get home. He told his wife that Skylar had snuck out and hadn't returned. Mary told him to calm down and assured him that all would be okay. Skylar was due at work at Wendy's at 4 p.m. David and Mary received a phone call from Wendy's saying that Skylar was late and inquiring about if she was coming to work. Mary also received a phone call from Sheila. She said that she had a confession to make and proceeded to tell her that her, Skylar, and Rachel had snuck out the night before. Mary asked where Skylar was, and then Sheila said that they dropped Skylar off at the end of the road. She said Skylar asked her to drop her off there so that her parents wouldn't hear the car before Skylar snuck back in the house. She also confessed that this wasn't the first time they had done that. Her parents then thought that maybe Skylar had been abducted between the end of the road where Sheila said they dropped her off and the apartment. Surveillance video at the apartment complex where Skylar lived showed Skylar leaving through her bedroom window, but never returning. As the days wore on, Sheila offered to comfort Skylar's parents, going door to door and helping hang up missing persons flyers. Police watched Skylar's social media accounts and cell phone, but there was no activity. When school started back up, speculations about what had happened to Skylar began to circulate. There was everything teenagers could possibly imagine, from Skylar met an internet predator to Skylar ran away. Before long, social media was buzzing with accusations that Sheila and Rachel knew something. Some speculated that she had OD'd on drugs and Sheila and Rachel freaked out and hid her body somewhere. No one thought that they had plotted her murder for months and then acted on it. Friends of theirs asked them to say something if they knew something. The pair became more and more reclusive, shutting everyone out but each other. FBI agents questioned many of the students at the high school where the three attended. David was getting frustrated at how the FBI was hounding Sheila and asked them to back off of her. But something about Rachel and Sheila's behavior just wasn't sitting right with detectives. Their story never wavered. It was a little too repetitive, a little too perfect. Most of the time, when someone is telling the truth, there are slight changes to their story. Details added or left out, use of different adjectives and adverbs, etc. Their stories were the exact same, verbatim. On November 30th, 2012, Rachel's fourth interview with police, she changed her story. She said that they had gone to Blacksville, and Skylar asked them to let her out of the car. The next day, police interviewed Sheila, whose story now matched the one Rachel had told detectives the day before. On December 28th, Rachel got into an altercation with her parents that turned violent. Rachel began screaming at her mom and then hit her. She ran out of the house screaming. Her father grabbed her and tried to contain her. She was taken to a mental health facility. On January 3rd, 2013, Rachel contacted police and scheduled an interview at her attorney's office. "We were expecting her to say, 'Yes, Skylar overdosed on heroin,'" says the lead investigator. "But the first 3 words out of her mouth were, 'We stabbed her.' The FBI agent and I were speechless for a bit. Then we were like, 'Let's start over. Tell us exactly what happened. What do you mean you stabbed her?'" After a moment of silence, Rachel proceeded to tell them the details of the murder that she and Sheila had been planning for months. Sheila brought 2 knives and cleaning supplies. Rachel took a shovel out of her father's house, and both brought clean clothes when they picked Skylar up that night. Before Skylar got in the car, they put the knives wrapped in towels in their waistband under their arms. They drove past Blacksville and across state lines into Pennsylvania. They stopped at a large wooded state park to smoke some pot and hang out. They wandered into the woods before choosing a spot, as they had done many times in the past, so Skylar didn't suspect a thing. Skylar had brought her bong, and Rachel had a pipe. As they settled in and got the pot packed in the bong, ready to smoke it, they realized that the lighter was left in the car. Skylar volunteered to go back to the car to get it. As she walked away, Sheila whispered to Rachel, "On 3. 1, 2, 3. Both girls ran towards Skylar with knives ready and began stabbing her from behind. Skylar never saw it coming. Skylar fought hard, and at one point she slithered out of the girls' grasp, but they caught her again. Then she managed to get Rachel's knife away from her and cut Rachel's leg. Skylar was bleeding quite badly and began losing her strength. As she lay dying, the girl she had thought was her lifelong best friend and another whom she thought was a friend looked at her. Skylar looked at them and asked why. The response was simple. "We just don't like you anymore." Skylar began gurgling blood in her throat, and Rachel told detectives that they continued to stab Skylar until the strange noises stopped. When Skylar was dead, they retrieved the shovel from the trunk and began digging, but that proved to be harder than they thought it would be. Instead, they gathered dirt, leaves, and branches and covered Skylar's body the best they could. They changed their clothes and headed home. They swore to never tell a soul about what they had done. After hearing Rachel's story, detectives put her in handcuffs and put her in a police car. She led them to where she believed Skylar's body was. However, with 6 inches of snow covering the park, they were unable to locate the makeshift grave. They had to let Rachel go because they didn't have enough evidence to charge her, and they didn't want Sheila to know that they were closing in on her. Detectives let Rachel, with a wiretap on, go hang out with Sheila that evening. Somehow, Sheila knew and was very careful with her words. They did not succeed in getting a confession from Sheila that way. The girls didn't hang out together anymore after that. Both of their parents had begun homeschooling after Christmas break due to all of the ridicule the two were receiving at school. Later in the evening, after Rachel wore the wire, Sheila tweeted, "First time I've ever been completely speechless. Holy fuck." On January 7th, she tweeted, "Walk straight through hell with a smile." On January 15th, "You don't even know the amount of shit you've caused." Exactly how much did Sheila know? The tweets sure sound like she knew that Rachel had gone to police. Police brought Sheila in for questioning again. FBI Special Agent Morgan Spurlock said, "Sheila had great posture, her hands folded on the table. She'd look you in the eye and speak matter-of-factly. She wanted to know what we were thinking, what we thought. And she would apologize for changing her story so many times. She would use excuses like it was late or I wasn't keeping track of time. She would try to layer her perception of events that happened with a cloud of doubt over some of the facts that we could stick to her. We sometimes don't even see that with career criminals." Star City police officer Jessica Culbank said, "Sheila was big-headed. She thought she could beat the polygraph." Sheila, however, did not beat the polygraph. On January 16th, almost 2 weeks after Rachel had taken detectives to the park, when the snow had melted, Detective Gaskins drove back out to the park where Rachel had taken them. Sure enough, about 40 feet from the side of the road, Gaskin located Skylar's remains, as well as her cell phone under a pile of branches. The phone was identified as Skylar's by the photos on the SD card. Later that day, someone named Josie Snyder, a pseudonym for an unknown person who was obviously close to the case and may have been someone in law enforcement, tweeted, "Sky is so gloomy today." Sky is in all caps. On January 22nd, Sheila tweeted, "Wonder if there's a Law and Order SVU where they don't figure it out." January 28th, Rachel tweeted, "There's so much I regret, but I'm on a new path and I seriously couldn't be happier." On February 2nd, Rachel tweeted, "This bitch is not going to ruin my life all over again." It is unknown if she's referring to Sheila or Skylar. On March 8th, Rachel posted, "My past is the past. Move the fuck on." 5 days later, the remains in the woods were positively identified as Skylar Neese. Rachel went completely silent. Sheila tried to lay on the charm by tweeting, "The pain is real. Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know." On March 31st, 2013, Sheila was engaged in a conversation with a friend on Twitter when out of the blue she tweeted, "We really did go on 3. Was she confessing? Was she goading to authorities? Why did she throw this in the middle of a completely unrelated conversation? I guess we'll never know." During the months of March and April, the police worked diligently to solidify a case against Sheila Eddy. They had discussed a deal with Rachel Shoaf, who would plead guilty to second-degree murder and agree to testify against Sheila. To prevent the possible deal with Rachel from alerting Sheila that they were onto her, they did not arrest Rachel immediately, but let her live as normal of a life as she could. They even let her go on vacation with her mother. Sheila continued to tweet strange messages. April 23rd. "If only you knew, you'd shit right down your leg." April 24th. "I hate when people blame their own actions and choices on others. Deal with it." April 27th. "Ain't no rest for the wicked." April 28th. "I hate seeing or hearing things that remind me of you because you're the last person I want to be reminded of." Was she referring to Skylar, whom she had murdered, or Rachel, her co-conspirator? April 30th. "I've closed enough windows to know you can never look back." Sheila's last tweet on April 30th, 2013 at 10:11 p.m. It read, "You suck bad." On May 1st, 2013, police arrested Sheila Eddy at a Cracker Barrel where she had just finished eating with her mother. As the officers were putting her in the back of the squad car, Sheila exclaimed, "People can see me back here." When they arrived at the police station, she had 2 requests. "Don't put me in with any mean people, and do you have anything I can put my hair up with?" Also on May 1st, 2013, Rachel entered a guilty plea to second-degree murder. Those involved in the agreement were Rachel Shoaf and her attorneys, the state of West Virginia, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Neese family. The sentencing portion of the plea agreement is not an actual agreement, but rather an agreed-upon recommendation. The judge retains the right to accept that sentence or to change it. On January 24, 2014, Sheila Eddy faced trial for the premeditated murder of Skylar Neese. She was tried as an adult. Many in the gallery wore purple in silent solidarity with Skylar and her parents. Purple was Skylar's favorite color. Sheila entered the courtroom wearing an orange prison jumpsuit. She didn't say anything throughout the trial, which was probably a good thing, as spectators would have let her have it if she had tried. One look at the thousands of comments on Sheila's Twitter will give you a good idea of what the public has said. Her Twitter account is still accessible. Rachel's, however, is gone. Sheila was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. She was also assessed restitution for court costs, as well as $3,631.11 for half of Skylar's funeral expenses. In February 2014, Rachel Shoaf was sentenced. Rachel was given the opportunity to speak.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology, because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. The person that did that was not the real me. Not the person I am, not what I'm made of, and not what I believe in. I don't think I ever thought that this would actually happen. I became scared and caught up in something that I did not want to do. I never realized the gravity of my actions and how many people I've hurt. I hurt the Neese family and those who loved Skylar. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. I hurt my extended family and all of my friends who loved me. I hurt my teachers and those who believed in me. I hurt my church family, my community, and those who trusted me. And I hurt my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. May God bring eternal peace to Skylar and the entire Neese family. Again, I'm so sorry, and I pray each day for everyone involved, and I pray each day for forgiveness.
In West Virginia, the judge has a few options. He can remand Rachel to an adult prison to serve her time, or he could sentence her as a juvenile, which means that she would be kept in a juvenile facility until she turns 18, at which time they would have another hearing to reconsider and possibly modify the sentence. If at that time the judge so chooses, he can sentence Rachel to stay in juvie until she's 21. The defense attorney stated that Rachel has accepted responsibility for her actions and is genuinely remorseful for those actions, and because of that, she should be sentenced as a juvenile and released at age 21. During the victim impact statements, the Neese family pointed out that while Rachel was the one who came forward and finally provided the answers, the only reason she did so was because the police were closing in. They feel that if she was truly remorseful, that she would have come forward much sooner. Instead, she watched the Neese family suffer, wonder if their daughter's alive and being raped or mistreated by kidnappers, try to hold on to hope, all the while knowing where Skylar really was. They stated they cannot forgive her for that. The prosecutor argued that Rachel was just as complicit in the crime as Sheila Eddy, and the plea to second-degree murder, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 years, is in itself her reward for confessing and testifying against Sheila. She didn't think that Rachel deserved any more of a reward than that. The judge reminded the court that the sentencing recommendation was merely a recommendation. The sentencing proposed in the agreement was 20 years. The maximum is 40 years. The defense requested that the judge consider a juvenile sentence. The judge pointed out that if he were to give a juvenile sentence, Rachel would be released in 4 years. And he stated that that is, quote, by no means justice in this case, and therefore that motion is denied, end quote. Rachel was sentenced as an adult to 30 years. She will be eligible for parole after serving 10. She was also assessed restitution for court costs, as well as $3,631.11 for the other half of the funeral expenses. When Skylar went missing, there were 4 criteria that must be met for an Amber Alert to be issued. 1, the child is under 18. 2, it is believed that the child was abducted. 3, it is believed that the child is in danger of serious injury or death. And 4, there is reasonable assumption that an Amber Alert will be beneficial in locating the child. Skylar's case didn't meet all of them since the police suspected that she ran away. Skylar's law was approved by the West Virginia House of Delegates with a vote of 98-0 on March 27, 2013. On April 12th of the same year, West Virginia State Senate passed the law unanimously. Skylar's law states that public announcements shall be issued when a child is reported missing and in danger, even if an abduction is not suspected. This case has left the citizens of the United States wondering why. Why couldn't they just end the friendship? Why did they feel that murdering Skylar was the best option? Rachel has said that even she doesn't know the answer to those questions. Thank you for joining us. If you are enjoying Minor Murderers, Children Who Kill, please go to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a review and rate us. We would greatly appreciate it. We'll see you again on May 1st when we'll be covering the case of Joseph Hall. He was just 10 years old when he shot his father in Riverside, California.